All right, to discuss this further, Colonel David B. DeRoche, professor at Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University, is joining us on the show today. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Sir, of course, as you know, the Israeli war cabinet member Benny Gantz has resigned. Now, this leaves Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu more reliant on the far-right allies of his government. Of course, the center bloc, it had helped broaden the support for his government as well. Where does this leave the Netanyahu government now?
Well, they're in a somewhat perilous position. I think that what led to this was you had a government of national unity to prosecute the war after the massacres and hostage-taking on October 7th. But as the war has raged on, Israel's strategic position in the world has deteriorated. The conduct of the war has led to a loss of international support for Israel. And you've also seen arguments within Israel over what will be, the end state for Gaza and indeed for the West Bank as well, once this war is over. Netanyahu's refused to discuss that. I don't think he really can, because he doesn't want to alienate the right-wing parties, as you note, in his coalition. But he was only able to kick it down so far. And with the end of the military operations being close to in sight, they could be over within 2 months. I think Benny Gantz said, look, why should I support this government when they won't offer a policy prescription for what happens the day after? It's also worth noting that Gantz's own political popularity was declining because of his support for Netanyahu. So there's that impetus as well.
Right. Colonel Roches, in the past few months during Israel's war in Gaza, Benny Gantz has been an integral person who has been talking with the Biden administration. Talk to us about how Gantz's resignation is being viewed in Washington, D.C., and how will it perhaps impact Biden's peace proposal in the ongoing war?
Well, good question. So I think the Biden administration views Netanyahu as unable or unwilling to moderate Israel's military operations in Gaza. I think the Biden administration feels that they have a way to get back the hostages and to keep Israel secure. I think that Netanyahu and the members of his ruling coalition feel that they can't really secure Israel unless they have militarily destroyed the entire Hamas military organization. And I think that for a while, I think that Gantz may actually agree with that. But there is a practical question, which is, okay, once you've done all this, what do you do with Gaza? How do you govern it? And Netanyahu's been unable to address that, or unwilling to address that. Netanyahu ran against Gantz. Gantz, I think, supported the fight against Hamas, but the time is now to come up with is this going to be something that Israel has to do every 5 years, or can there actually be a real solution? The fact that Netanyahu is unwilling to discuss that, I think, put Gantz in a bad position. But the Biden administration certainly would prefer to deal with Gantz than Netanyahu.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, I was just going to come to this next. Of course, the main bone of contention was that there was no day after plan for Gaza. And you also mentioned that this has put Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in a perilous position. That being said, do you reckon we will see any sort of a change in strategy when it comes to the war in Gaza?
Well, there's not really a strategy. There's a lot of tactics, and the tactics are, military. Strategy has to integrate political outcome with tactics and with economics and information. Israel is losing the information war internationally, and they're losing their strategic position is deteriorating, as I noted. I think that Netanyahu and his coalition seem to think that if they solve the military problem of Hamas, they can then somehow address later on the political solution. But Gantz's position is in keeping with standard counterinsurgency doctrine, which is you have to have a political move in parallel with the military move if you are to resolve an insurgency. And Hamas is a very well-armed insurgency. So I think Gantz has both political, strategic, and tactical reasons for breaking with Netanyahu at this point.
Right. Thank you, Colonel Roches, for taking our time and joining us here on World DNA with your insights.
Thank you.